Let's talk about the commander component of EDH. A commander is one specific legendary creature that your deck is built around. Now, typically you can pick any legendary creature you'd like, but Magic have given us a few different ways of mixing and matching and making that idea a little bit more interesting. In 2016, they introduced the concept of partner, and what partner was is a keyword that allowed you to have more than one creature with that keyword partner to be in the commander zone at the same time. This allowed you to mix and match these creatures to create interesting deck colors and different deck synergies. Wizards then in 2020 introduced the concept of companion. Companion is a legendary creature that can sit alongside your commander. These legendary creature companions introduce new rule sets for your deck. So for instance, Lurrus, in order for him to qualify as a companion, each permanent card in your starting deck had to have converted mana cost 2 or less. This also made it quite interesting in a way to build your deck and think about new strategies. Now, in 2022, we have the new concept of backgrounds being introduced in Baldur's Gate. And what are backgrounds? Well, backgrounds come alongside legendary creatures that are printed within the set. Now, these are all monocolored legendary creatures that will have the text choose a background on them. And from there, we can then pick from a selection of these backgrounds, which are enchantments that give special effects just like your companions would. You can cast them and then they affect the commander on which you've sort of selected. And this gives some nice diversity in the ways that we can build our decks once again. So very similar to partner and companion, backgrounds introduce this new concept. Now, you can have backgrounds in your 99. You can have these creatures that select backgrounds from your 99, but you can only have a creature that has select a background, and you can only have a background in your command zone if your creature has that text in it. Otherwise, you cannot just have, say, partners with a background and so on. So just keep that in mind as we get through these decks, because these decks will all introduce the concept of background and as an alternative to the commander. Next up, we have Exit from Exile. This is the Gruul deck of the set. Wizards have actually made quite a few Gruul deck Precons recently, and so now we have another one. But this one I've got a feeling is going to be quite different to the ones that we've seen now recently. Right, so we have the main commander being Feldon, Dread Wolf Herald. It's a 3/3 for 3 mana, and it's a human druid. Whenever you cast a spell from exile, or a land enters the battlefield under your control from exile, create a 2/2 green wolf creature token. And then you can pay 1 and tap it to discard a card, exile the top card of your library. You may play it this turn. So I've got a feeling that we're going to see a lot of those sort of effects where we can exile off the top. Red has got quite a lot of those things. This isn't typically like the type of effect that we'd see in green, but making 2/2 green wolf creature tokens is something that you'll find as well quite common. All right, so we have Feldon, Dread Wolf Herald, and then we have Durnan, the Yawning Portal. Whenever Durnan attacks, we have Durnan, the Yawning Portal. Whenever Durnan attacks, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may exile a creature from among them, put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. For as long as that card remains exiled, you may cast it, and that spell has Undaunted. It costs 1 less for each opponent. Discounts those creatures, great value, something that is quite hard in green. You wouldn't think it is sort of, you can get your ramp and you can get your draw, but I typically find that finding a consistent way of drawing is quite difficult outside of like the library. But for the most part, you find these cards are one-time use, draw lots of cards, and so something like this is quite cool. But you get to choose a background. The background that you get here is called Passionate Archaeologist, And it's a 2-mana legendary enchantment. Commander creatures you own have, whenever you cast a spell from exile, this creature deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to target opponent. Right. So definitely getting very strong vibes from this deck that there's going to be a lot of playing from exile. Right. In terms of land package, there are 39 lands in this deck. And in green, you sort of want to have a little bit more, especially if you have a deck that cares about lands. So let's dive into that. There's quite a nice complement of basics. Then for those with unique effects and dual colors, we have Ash Barrens, Brighted Woodland, we have Gruul Turf, Highland Forest, Myriad Landscape, Temple of the False God, Command Tower, Castle Omerbreath, Cinderglade, Game Trail, Hissek Wolf Run, Mossfire Valley, Mosswood Bridge, Raging Ravine, Spinerock Knoll, and Temple of Abandon. There's loads of ways of making a mana base for a Gruul deck. You can shave off a lot of these basics, but you typically want to keep a few just for the sort of ramp spells that are in green. Alright, in terms of multicolored cards, we have 4, and the first one is Bloodbraid Elf. This has been played quite a lot with Cascade. We have Gumgully the Generous. We have Escape into the Wilds, and we have Xenagos the Reveler. One of the things that we've seen as a theme for these decks is there isn't a whole bunch of multicolored cards here. Alright, in terms of your artifact sort of support, we have the Soul Ring and Arcane Signet, which are sort of becoming staples in Commander. And then we have Chaos Wand and Savrock's Tome. And Savrock's Tome is a new card, so when it enters the battlefield, you take the initiative. You can tap it to add a colorless. If you have the initiative, add 2 instead. And then for 3, you can tap and exile from the top of your, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Activate only if you've completed a dungeon. Alright, within the red package, there are quite a few cards here that will allow you to play cards from exile. So we have Tectonic Giant, which at the bottom here says you can exile the top 2 cards of your library and choose one of them. You can cast that, you can play that card. You get Stolen Strategy, which is a fantastic card in Commander. I love playing with this card and against this card. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of each opponent's library until end of turn. You may cast spells from among those exiled cards. Outpost Siege also allows you to cast cards off the top. Laia will also be able to do that, just as Will is just becoming like a Commander staple in red. It allows you to make mana and to cast spells. Izzet Chemist allows you to play exiled instants and sorceries. Ignite the Future, you can exile the top 3 and you can play entirely exiles as well. Dream Pillager also gets exile when it's done combat damage. Direfleet Daredevil, Light Up the Stage. So these here and Light Up the Stage, these are the cards that will allow you to play from exile. So that's quite strong on the theme. You find quite a lot. And then there's a lot of synergies that go with these cards, like Wild Magic Sorcerer. The first card you cast from exile each turn has Cascade, or Nalfeshni, which whenever you cast a spell from exile, copy it, and so on. And so then the rest here is just answers and support there. So we have Demon Bolt, Emberous Shieldbreaker, Volcanic Torrent, Aura Phoenix, Bone Crusher Giant, Great Gargron, Mizzy Mortars, Urbrask, Awesome Surge, and Delayed Blast Fireball. In terms of green, we have quite a nice ramp package. We have Venture Forth, which is exile cards from the top of your library into exile a land card. Put that card into the battlefield and the rest in the bottom of your library in random order. and exile venture forth with 3 more time counters. You get to do it again later. We have Nature's Law, 3 visits, Terramorph, Search for Tomorrow, Steve. We have Cultivate, Explore, Kodama's Reach, Beanstalk Giant. Those are all cards that will allow you to fetch and go and get lands. Some of them specifically forests. So you can see why you want quite a good package of basics so that you can go and have those. We have Beast Within, Natural Reclamation, Astara, the Endless Web, Battle Mammoth, End Raise Forerunners, Azuri's Predation. I think these 2 are kind of like the end game cards. You kind of want to overrun everybody. Hornet Queen to make lots of bodies, Lovestruck Beast, Managorger Hydra, Primeval Bounty, Return of the Wild Speaker, give you lots of card draw there, Sandworm, Convergence, Sweet Gum Recluse, Vivian Champion of the Wilds, Green Slime. Journey into the Lost City is one of the new cards. I think this one has like an immense payoff if you can have like a couple turns with it and then roll a d20. So the way that this works is at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top 4 cards of your library and then you roll a d20. If you get 1 to 9, then you may put a land card amongst them into the battlefield. If you roll between 10 and 19, you create a 2/2 green wolf token, then put a 1/1 counter on it for each card, creature card amongst those cards. And then for 20, put all permanent cards exiled with Journey to the Lost City onto the battlefield and then sacrifice it. So you can imagine, like, if you've exiled 4, exiled 4, exiled 4, and then it's more likely that you'll create a couple of wolves and you put a couple of different lands. But if you ever land that d20, it's going to be a game for memories. And then we have Tin Kali Hunter. All right. Overall, not a bad deck. I think it is quite different. There are certainly some cards in here like Jessica's Will, which are going to be well sought after. So I'm glad and happy for those reprints. I'm very interested to see how this deck would fare. I think in order for it to sort of do well, you have to have a couple of the cards that support that exiling effect, and then it's almost like a staggered thing. So you have to have a card here that would benefit from it, and then be able to cast a spell that allows you to then cast more stuff off of the exile. So I think this is going to be quite a tricky deck to play. And I'm not too sure about power levels, but my gut's telling me it's probably not the strongest of the lot. Let's see what we get in the boosters. Storm King's Thunder. X and 3 red. On instant, when you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell X times. You may choose new targets for the copies. Really cool full art. And then Decanter of Endless Water. You have no maximum hand size, and you can add 1 mana of any color for 3. Yeah, so that's quite cool. Also quite a nice foil, as you can see. Not too bad. A huge shout out to the Luck Shack for getting me these cards ahead of time. I know as we speak, they should all be available on the Luck Shack's website. They should be preloading them already. I get these ahead of time, so before they're available for the general public here in South Africa. If you'd like to pick up any of the singles or one of the Precon decks, you can get that at the Luck Shack. You can find a link in the description below. If you enjoy this content, hit subscribe and like the video. And if you have any comments, drop those below. I like reading through those, and it really shows that I'm heading in the right direction. So any of that sort of comment or any suggestions goes a long way. Thanks for watching. Until next time.